Happy 2023, everyone. Welcome to a new year on Jasmine Zade. I did factually get a new camera, so nothing but good quality content all year long. So excited for this year on this channel and all the things we're going to accomplish together. I hope you're so excited too. But if you're new around here, hello, my name is Jasmine. I'm a music business student, avid fangirl, artist manager. I make music pop culture commentary here on this channel. I do album reactions sometimes too. Definitely stick around and subscribe. I'm so excited to do today's video. This is something that I feel like I've talked about here and there in other videos, but I've never done like a full length exploration of it. And that is discussing the decline of pop groups in the US and UK primarily. You could argue Canada as well, but whatever. Not only talking about the decline of pop groups in the West, but also the rise of K-pop in its place. And I actually just saw TikTok about this when I was eating breakfast this morning, where it was like the year is 2016 and everyone is literally flocking from One Direction to BTS. And I was like, yeah, that's literally my next video. And when I say the decline of Western pop groups, I do not mean groups like Maroon 5 or 5 Seconds of Summer or Imagine Dragons, like pop groups like that, like instrument groups. I'm really just talking about boy bands and girl groups. Someone actually submitted this video to me as a topic in my form, which if you guys have any video ideas, then you can definitely go fill out that form in the description. I literally check it every day, and someone submitted this very topic to me and I was like, that is so up my alley, like we have to do it. Basically, there's just been a huge lack of boy bands and girl groups based in the West, and lots of K-pop girl groups and boy bands on the rise and in the mainstream instead. And I just want to talk about some of the reasons why and talk about this shift into a new popular style of music. But before we get into all that, let me take a minute to talk to you guys about Gal's Glow Cases. Gal's Glow Cases is a brand that makes Harry Styles phone cases that light up. Yes, they light up. Lights up and they know who you are. Like, they light up. These cases are available for both iPhone and Android users, so there's literally not an excuse to not go get one. Unless you fucking hate Harry Styles, then I don't recommend. But I actually do, because you can get it for your friend who does like Harry Styles. They have worldwide shipping that's free when you spend $30, and so many cute designs, you guys. You can get cases that have a look from your Love on Tour show on them specifically. Like if you went to a Chicago show and you want that specific night's outfit that you were there for, they can make the case for you. And Gal's Glow Cases was nice enough to send me over 2 of my very own Harry cases. So let me show you, because yes, they're cute. This is the first one. You can see my ring light. Whatever. This is the first one that I picked out. It just says HS all over it with the cherries. So cute. Oh, my bad. It has watermelons, cherries, and strawberries. And then I got one from the Austin show specifically that he did in October, because I like the look from this show so much. And it's just him wearing a cowgirl hat that someone threw on stage. It just says Love on Tour, and it has his little vest outfit that I love so much. So I really wanted that one. So these are my 2 cute little cases from Gal's Glow Cases. They're so cute, you guys. So many cute Harry designs. So definitely go pick you out one. And I would demonstrate how they light up. There's this little plug right here on the bottom, and you basically just put it on your case and then plug this into your little port that you would charge your phone with, and it lights up. But I can't do a demonstration because my phone is broken from taking it in the shower. Grave mistake. Don't be like me and have such a horrible attention span that you can't shower without watching YouTube videos in the shower, because water got in my port and now it doesn't charge. So I have to use like a magnetic charger on the back of my phone. But in any other circumstance, you can put these on there and make them light up. You guys can get 25% off of your order if you use the code JAZZADE, JASZADE, at checkout, or you can visit the link in my description to get the 25% off as well. Go get yourself one of these babies while you can. Get your friend one, get your sister one, whoever loves Harry. I'm sure they would really appreciate it, because these are super cute, and you can get one from your show. Thank you so much, Gal's Glow Cases, for sending me over the cases. Now let's get into the decline of pop groups in the West. So to get into the decline of Western pop groups, we first have to understand their rise in the first place and kind of how they've been throughout time. Girl groups and boy bands in the US and UK primarily have been around for ages, of course, originally starting as more of barbershop quartets for boy bands and then like little sister acts for girl groups, which barbershop quartets did also inspire what would become the girl group. And I talked a lot about this in my boy band and girl group videos respectively. If you haven't seen them, I will have those linked down below because they're super relevant to this video, and I'm sure I'm going to say some things in this video that I said in those. The point is, these boy bands and girl groups definitely pop up and gain popularity throughout the decades, especially boy bands. Like in the 60s, there was the Temptations, the Monkees. In the 70s, it was the Jackson 5, the Osmonds. In the 80s, it was New Edition. In the 90s, it was BSB, NSYNC, Boys to Men. In the 2000s, it was like the Jonas Brothers. And then the 2010s, One Direction, The Wanted, Big Time Rush. So it's like each decade, these groups are popping up and gaining traction and popularity. But I feel like these groups, as we know them today specifically, really molded into place in the 90s. Like the 90s is when the mold and the formula that we know today kind of came to be. It kind of solidified its place and then became a mainstay, and we just grew from there. These groups would literally be humongous. They would be talked about a lot in the media, dominating charts, and they were just huge parts of pop culture in general. In the 90s specifically, we had Take That, the Spice Girls, the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Westlife, and New Kids on the Block. They were sort of the ones who were on everyone's bedroom wall. They were the ones that were sort of super reminiscent about these days. Like when you're having conversations about classic boy bands and girl groups, these are the ones that are going to come up, like the ones from the 90s and early 2000s specifically, because like I said, that feels like the time period where the boy band mold, the girl band mold was like born, obviously influenced by groups that came before them. But as we know the formula today, really solidified in the 90s. It just feels like a time period where big pop groups were just so normal and popular. And then we dive into the 2010s when this kind of continued and these big pop groups would pop up and just become like these huge mainstays. And it was just normal and popular to have them around. After One Direction's formation on the X Factor, a lot of other groups kind of followed and became huge pop groups like Little Mix, Fifth Harmony, The Wanted. And then of course this uptick in pop groups would be reflected in kid and teen media with shows like Big Time Rush. And for a while, this culture of having these big groups around was just the norm, especially if you're someone like me who was kind of a teenager or preteen during the 2010s, like prime boy band girl group time. It was just such a thing. Fandoms literally all over Twitter, constantly voting, these big groups winning every single award to almost an annoying point where it's like you go to the award show and you know that One Direction is sweeping. These big groups were all over the radio, and for a while, a lot of people were trying to imitate Simon Cowell's formula for making boy bands and girl groups. There was even an attempt to bring the X Factor to the USA because of the stardom that was being cranked out over in the UK. So they even tried the X Factor USA and ended up with Fifth Harmony in the same way that they ended up with other groups. By pulling these solo singers and putting them together in groups, everyone wanted to be the next One Direction. Everyone wanted to be the next Little Mix. But regardless, after One Direction disbanded in 2015, there wasn't really another group around to kind of step up and take their place. And then Fifth Harmony disbanded, and there wasn't really another group to step up and take their place. Little Mix was still like doing their career, obviously. But then after Little Mix disbanded, there was no one to step up and take their place. Instead of seeing some kind of new UK, US girl group or boy band, we saw a complete shift into K-pop. And the fans of these bands that were disbanding would go over and stan at K-pop idols. And yes, there were some other boy bands in particular I can think of that kind of stepped in and were formed and attempted to take over in the West, like Pretty Much and Why Don't We? And they did see a little bit of success, but like absolutely nothing compared to what was left behind or what came before them. And since then, in the last like 7-ish years, we've not seen a big group come along and dominate and take over in the same way as their predecessors. 7 years, almost a decade since we've had a big pop group in the West. Wow. This is hurting me. It just hurts really bad. So the question is, what happened to these big girl groups and boy bands? Why haven't we seen them in the 2020s outside of the realm of K-pop? Why are the new ones who are popping up and attempting to break into the scene not seeing success like their predecessors were? What gives K-pop a big enough it factor to take over and fill the void instead? Well, lucky for you, it's my job to do the research on these things, and that I did do, so let's talk about it. After I have a sip of my peppermint mocha, because I'm a little fiend. So true. Absolutely, that was just glorious. Okay, now we can talk about it. So for this part of the video, I want to do these in like a list, like a literal list. Reasons why we are not seeing Western boy bands and girl groups pop up and dominate anymore. Reason number 1, they have a limited shelf life. What I mean by these big girl groups and boy bands having a limited shelf life is that it seems like the group can only last until their fans age out of standing them, and then they're unable to be replaced. I don't know how to say this in a way that's gonna make sense. Let me try again. Like, the market for boy bands and girl groups tends to be teenagers or preteens, tweens, younger people. So it works while your fan base are young and they're in the correct demographic and the correct market for you. But then once they start to grow up and grow out of listening to boy bands and girl groups, they're no longer there. And it's difficult to just find a new group of preteens to replace them with, because at that point, you're getting older, you're getting burnt out, yada, yada, yada. It's just limited shelf life. Your fans grow out of it. Not only that, but they're bound to be detested for a while, because almost everything that is enjoyable to preteens and teen girls ends up becoming detested and like a punching bag for the public. So it's inevitable that your group is going to become detested until it becomes nostalgic. It's like a cycle. You're this super popular boy band / girl group that has this amazing market of young listeners, but then it's just not the same. They're growing out of it. They want to move on. You're getting detested because, ew, that's music for preteens. That's music for tweens. Nobody likes you, until it's been years and years and years. Then it's, oh, I miss them. Reunion tour, nostalgia. And I do think that the Jonas Brothers are like a prime example of this. And I'm sure there's other boy bands and girl groups who have done reunion type of things. But the Jonas Brothers just come to mind, like wildly popular. They have the correct market. They're doing the damn thing. Then their fans grow out of it. They disband. They do their solo projects for a while, but then they were able to come back and sell out these world tours because they could essentially capitalize off of nostalgia. And it's just so unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Like, boy bands and girl groups are just seen as a teenage tween thing unless you're listening for the nostalgia. It's almost like there's no middle ground, and it has to be one or the other. Either you're a preteen tween listening to this music and enjoying it, and that's okay because you're that young, or you're older and you're listening to it and enjoying it, but it's only okay because you're doing it for nostalgia. Like, why can't we just be adults who enjoy pop groups? Is the question. But yeah, that's reason number 1, limited shelf life. I hope it made sense. Reason number 2, inorganic creation. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Most times than not, with boy bands and girl groups, they are formed by someone, and they're formed out of individual members who were originally either already or planning to be solo artists, and then they all come together as a band. The formula we were talking about earlier that was really popular in the 2010s literally was a bunch of people auditioning for the X Factor as solo artists, and then they don't make it, but then the judges put them through as a girl group, or the judges put them through as a boy band. So now you have a band made up of individual members with completely different goals, dreams, styles, music styles, etc. And even if it doesn't start that way, I mean, it feels inevitable that you're going to end up having like your own taste and your own style and your own wants for your music. So then it becomes really hard to be in a group. Plus, when you're in a boy band or girl group, there always seems to be so much emphasis on individual members. The media loves to individualize group members as is. Like, there's always, who's the lead member of the group? Who's the leader? Or who's the most talented? You know what I mean? Like, people in the public and the media love to nitpick out those details and kind of pit group members against each other. And because of this, we've seen the same old pattern with almost every boy band or girl group that makes it really big. One member leaves the group, they all kind of continue to make music together, but then it all falls apart and everyone goes solo. And then maybe in a few years they come back and do a reunion. But it's almost inevitable. I keep using that word. Buzzword of the day, inevitable, but we're gonna move past it. But it's like every single time there's been a big boy band or girl group, they all go solo and pursue their own solo projects. It's almost like that's the norm, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're in a group. What group just lasts as a group? None of them. None of them. Because it just makes sense that you as a musical artist want to have your own goals and dreams and sound and all of those things. And it's really hard to compromise in a group, especially when you didn't mean to be in a group in the first place and it was kind of just the best opportunity for you. Like if you were a young 16-year-old going on the X Factor and you were told that you didn't make it through on your own, but all your dreams could come true if you were put in a group, it's going to be really hard to say no to that. And it's going to be easier to take being in the group as your stepping stone. So then it's a little bit temporary. I'll be in this group for a little bit, rise myself to fame, and then leave, go solo, and pursue my real goals and dreams. So yeah, that's my second reason. In organic creation, it's very hard to stay in a group when you were created by someone who's just putting you together to make money. My next reason is that the marketing is brutal. I didn't know what else to kind of call this one, but I'm going to try to explain it so you kind of know what I mean. Being an artist or being a celebrity in general, but we're talking about music here. So being an artist on its own is already very grueling and difficult and has its low moments. But I feel like being a part of a group, especially a boy band, girl group type of group, is almost like one step more difficult. I say the marketing is grueling because it takes a lot to pull off a girl group or a boy band. You have to put up a persona most of the time. You have to be a certain thing, fit a certain mold to bring in the target demographic that you're looking for, and that can put a lot of pressure on a person. I talked a lot about this in my Dark Side of One Direction video, if you've ever seen that, kind of the marketing and branding that happened to One Direction that kind of tore their lives apart as they grew up in the spotlight. All this pressure to constantly be who your manager and your behind the scenes team needs you to be for the public, that's a lot. Take that and make it so you're constantly being compared to however many other members is even more pressure. Because like I said, being a solo artist is definitely difficult, but when there's suddenly all these other people on stage with you that you have to be compared to constantly in the media, that's going to get draining. An anonymous Reddit user said, with grueling tour schedules, very targeted fan bases, and demanding managers/production, you're bound to get disgruntled, burnt out employees who choose not to extend their contracts because at their core, that's what each of the members were, contracted employees. Literally so glad that I found that quote because I could not have said it better myself. But yes, everything about being in a boy band/girl group is just so demanding and so specific. And you have to adhere to these things in order to be successful because of the market. And this is why a lot of times, more times than not, after a girl group or boy band has ended, the members end up coming out and talking so much shit about their time in the boy band/girl group. And we pretend to be shocked every time. Why? Because it happens every time. As soon as that contract is up, they are ready to spill about the workload and being forced to pretend to be someone that they're not, and maybe not getting along with other members or struggling with being compared to other members. There's just always stories like that at the end of boy bands and girl groups. I just feel like a lot of people are starting to see that, and a lot more conversations are starting to happen openly about what goes on behind the scenes in the music industry. So people who want to enter the industry don't even bother with wanting to be in a boy band or girl group. That brings us to reason number 4, repetitive. Nothing new. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that there was a very specific like boy band girl group formula that felt like it was kind of born in the 90s and continued on throughout the 2010s. And that formula has stayed the same since and has literally never changed. All of these boy bands and girl groups are being marketed the same way, or like same way but slightly different. They have the same demographic, they have the same market, they're literally aiming to the same people, they're kind of making the same kind of music to appeal to those kinds of people. They're doing the whole I'm the hot one, I'm the mysterious one, I'm the dad of the group thing. That's mainly for boy bands though. Girl groups, it's usually like my best friends, girl power, like they all just kind of follow the same mold and the same formula for the same people. And I just personally feel like that mold and that formula got really, really tired and really, really repetitive. And now new groups who are trying to be the next big thing have no idea how to market themselves because following that same old formula is just not working. It's boring, it's repetitive, it's like, okay, just another one of you. But they're unsure of how to change that. And they're unsure of what to be. Like, what's the next reinvention of the boy band/girl group gonna be? Nobody knows. Reason number 5, boy bands and girl groups are too expensive/difficult for labels. Just on the business side of things, it's a lot more difficult to manage the image of a group of people than it is a solo person. And because this decline in boy bands and girl groups in the West is happening, it's a lot harder to come up with a new marketing brand aesthetic thing for a group when you could just make your money pursuing a solo artist and pushing them out and making something for them. When you're a behind the scenes person in music, you have to also pay a bunch of people, and there was so many issues coming out with big boy bands and girl groups being underpaid, and that was an issue in itself. Artists are underpaid in general too. But it's a lot more difficult for these labels and managers to pay out multiple people again when it's so much easier to kind of pursue your little solo artist and make all your money with them. But those are my 5 reasons, just my personal opinion, and why I think boy bands and girl groups in the West are not working anymore. Limited shelf life, people grow out of them. Inorganic creation, these artists are bound to go solo. A grueling market for boy bands and girl groups. They're repetitive, nothing new, can't figure out a good formula, and it's expensive and difficult for labels to pay out and manage a bunch of artists. Those are truly, truly the reasons why I think we are not seeing any new breakout boy bands and girl groups here in the West. But like I said earlier on in this video, it's not like we're missing boy bands and girl groups completely. All of the popular ones right now are just K-pop boy bands and girl groups. So I want to get into the why K-pop of it all. Why did we shift into K-pop? What gives K-pop the it factor over people attempting to break into the scene in the West? I don't even need to say it, but K-pop is wildly, wildly popular, one of the most popular genres of music right now, including in the West, not just where it originates. Chartmetric says, for more than 15 years, K-pop grew from a regional sensation to a cultural powerhouse that is now found everywhere, from viral tracks on the Billboard Hot 100 charts to US malls distributing the latest merchandise. With BTS and Blackpink being the latest artists to capture our attention, the catchy, polished music with picture-perfect idols regularly sells out arenas worldwide. The enigmatic business continues to inspire the rest of the global music industry with its legendary fandoms. It's very, very well known that a lot of stans went and flipped over to K-pop when bands started disbanding over here in the West. So kind of like I just did a second ago, I want to make another list, but this time the list is for why K-pop. Number 1, it's new and different. Earlier, when I was talking about how there's always kind of a new and popular girl group or boy band for each decade, in the 2020s decade, it just so happens to be K-pop. That is what's new, that is what's different, that is what's taking off right now. And also, when I said one of the reasons why we're not seeing groups in the West is because they're struggling to come up with a new formula, K-pop is that new formula. The K-pop formula is very different than the boy band girl group formula over here in the US and UK. It's its own thing entirely. It's its own genre of music entirely. So that makes sense. And it's like, yes, K-pop groups are also formed, kind of going back to when I was talking about inorganic creation, but people who enter K-pop groups literally enter them to be in a group, and they train to be in a group specifically. One Reddit user said, K-pop is an entire genre that is dominated by the group formula. The industry knows how to put together and promote a group. It's virtually the opposite of pop in the West in this sense. Here, we're way better at solo pop acts than we are at group. So K-pop just does the group formula better 95% of the time. So true. Like literally my entire point. K-pop is all about the group formula. That's what they do best. It's groups. You hardly ever see like just a solo K-pop artist unless they're in a group and they're doing a solo song. And like I said, K-pop is its own thing in its entirety. So the formula just does not feel the same at all like it does in the West. K-pop is all about like high concept storytelling. It's very aesthetic, extremely, extremely fashionable. Everything about K-pop is more engaging. I've seen it described as weaponized pop, and it's true. Music is released quicker and it's more interesting. The visuals are insane. It's not too hard to fall down the K-pop hole. It can be kind of addictive. Like I said, new and different, new formula entirely, and K-pop is really good at what it is. Number 2, creative freedom. It is very common in K-pop for group members to kind of pursue their own solo projects while they're in a group, and it's never like a alarming thing. It's never like, oh my god, this member is making a solo song, the group is gonna break up. Like, it's not like that. It's normal and expected for K-pop artists to like do a solo song and do a solo project and still be in the group, or even like a whole mixtape of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be just one song. Like, they're completely free to pursue their own things while they're still within this group, and that gives them a lot more creative freedom. And I just feel like having the ability to deter from the group's overall concept and sound and make your own concept and sound every once in a while is such a healthy and good way to maintain a balance between you and boy band life, or you and girl group life. Like, can you imagine groups that we have over here doing that kind of thing? Like, imagine if One Direction let Zayn do like solo projects and like release music on the side while he was in the group and maintaining a group image. it would have just been so drastically different. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I just looked at my list and those are the only two things that I put. I thought it was going to be a longer list like the first one, but I only put 2 reasons why I think that K-pop is so big. But in my defense, there's only 2 because the first one takes up so much of this. Simply that it's new and different, and like the concept of K-pop, the high concept stuff, the storytelling, the aesthetic, all of that stuff just like takes the cake for why K-pop is so popular. But I also wanted to add that the creative freedom thing is such a huge thing as well. Plus the fact that K-pop is made for the group formula, that's just another humongous point, which is why it only feels like I have 2, but there's like little sub points within my points, so it's fine. That kind of brings us to the present of boy bands and girl groups in the West and what's next for them. The answer seems to be a huge influx of specifically girl groups trying to go viral on TikTok. I did touch loosely on this in my girl groups video, but we're gonna dig it right back up for this one. There have been so many girl groups created in the last few years on TikTok specifically. I've seen both will either form themselves and then make an account together, or they will be scouted by music business people and put together kind of like Boys World. Boys World were literally scouted on Instagram by A&R people, and then those people paid for them to move into a house together in LA and make content. Like, music business people are still out there trying to make a girl group. But these TikTok girl groups essentially use TikTok to kind of blow up and get an audience going by making trend videos and dance videos and singing videos and covers. And then they'll eventually like record a song and use the app to promote their new singles. And there's definitely so many because we're missing a big girl group in the West. And I think a lot of these groups want to be the one who take the spot. It's like a bloodbath for the spot, as if there's only one. This might be a little controversial. I don't know if this is going to get the girls mad because I don't know how big these fan bases are of the TikTok girl groups. But I truly feel like the only girl group I've seen really come off of TikTok and like truly start to kind of make it is Flow. And we can't even use Flow as an example in this video because they're not a pop girl group. They're an R&B girl group, but whatever. But I say Flow because they've generated so much hype off of the TikTok app. They're all over Twitter, all over Instagram. They went on Jimmy Kimmel and did a performance. They're doing all these performances and breaking all these stats that they have and having all these articles written about them. Like, they really took themselves off of the app and just made themselves regular artists. So truly the only girl group that I've seen kind of make it. I know that Boys World has had like a few articles here and there, and they were in like a teen magazine, but they haven't really made it off of the TikTok platform. Like, all their hype is on TikTok. I don't see really people talking about them in the mainstream. Their music doesn't perform as well as like what I was saying with Flow. Not to diss on Boys World. I love Boys World. I'm always rooting for them. It just feels like so many of these girl groups are just internet girl groups. So many of these girl groups have such huge followings on TikToks, really good engagement, people always commenting, that kind of stuff. But then their streaming numbers don't match up. Nothing landing on the charts, no really articles or interviews. They're not really doing performances. It's like they're just internet pop stars who do really well when they make a song on TikTok or like make a dance or post a cover, but then it doesn't really do anything outside of that. I did also attempt to scour the internet for TikTok boy bands, if you're curious, like why I'm just talking about girl groups. The majority of TikTok is girl groups, but I did come across some TikTok boy bands. Like, there's a handful, but nothing like the girl group seen on TikTok. I don't know what that's all about. But it was really interesting when I was looking for boy bands on TikTok because the handful that I did come across seemed to be trying to look like K-pop boy bands, even though they're not Korean. They're like groups of American boys doing these like hip hop dances to try and emulate a K-pop boy band, dressed clearly like they're trying to look like a K-pop boy band with like the earrings, and which is just literally history repeating itself because back in the day, there was a bunch of dudes trying to like recreate One Direction, or like people in the music business trying to make a new One Direction. But now it's like all the boys are trying to be K-pop idols. You see how this works? It's always a cycle of what's popular. And again, with these like boy bands and girl groups that I'm finding on TikTok, they literally have like millions of followers, but yet nobody has heard of them and they've made no musical impact. Just feels like we're creating online pop stars. It's fascinating. Like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, that's where we are right now. Who knows what the future of the pop group is going to be? Literally, it could be anything because right now it's K pop. But who knows what's going to come next? Maybe there will be a boy band or girl group who figures out the new formula. Hi. I have a girl group that figured out the new formula, and they're called PMX. I've talked about PMX so many times on this channel before. If you want to check out my full video introducing them and doing an interview with them, I'll have it linked down below. But this video is so fascinating to me because it laid out all the reasons why PMX is the exact opposite of the decline of Western pop groups in the US. These girls were not created inorganically. They all found each other and became best friends and wanted to become a group on their own. So they have a really, really nice friendship dynamic and get along really well. And plus, they do solo songs, kind of like I was talking about with K-pop. They have all the creative freedom in the world because A, they do the solo songs. They get to experiment with their own sound and their own style. And B, they have a lot of creative freedom because they're an independent girl group, which means we don't have a huge label backing them up and they're not under any kind of contract that makes it so they have to sacrifice their creative freedom. They're always working on exactly what they want to be, and they're really, really passionate about what they do. They don't have a super specific targeted market. They just make the music that they love, which is a big blend of genres that they love. And if it appeals to you, then come and listen and come and join the fan base kind of thing. There's just so many reasons why PMX is so fascinating and so different. And like I said, they are independent, so all of the support we get is mostly from fans, just like you guys. So if you want to support, please come and do so. They have a single out called Don't Let Me Go. Go stream on Apple Music, go stream on Spotify, share it with your friends, go watch the music video, leave a comment. Your support means the absolute world, and that's exactly how they're going to get to the top. So, couldn't make a video about girl groups without talking about mine, so, okay, back to it. At least I got to experience the golden era of Western boy bands and girl groups. So sorry if you weren't there for that, if you're a youngin' watching my video. Sorry to brag, but I was a teenager at the right time. Oop! I'm so blessed and moved and grateful, and I miss it every day of my life. But yeah, that's my little exploration on the absence of boy bands and girl groups in the West. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. Is there a reason you think they're declining that I didn't mention? Let me know. If you're a K-pop stan and you want to chime in on why you prefer K-pop, let us all know. Let's start a discussion. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps out with the algorithm. I appreciate it a lot. You can also visit my description to follow me on all my social medias and leave a video request for me if you have something specific you want me to talk about. Don't forget to check out Gal's Glow Case to get that 25% off of those Harry Styles phone cases with the link in my description, or use my code JZADE at checkout. I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing, drinking all the water and thriving. And I will see you in my next video with my brand spanking new camera that I love. See you next time.